Welcome back to Open Court as we talk about the best team to never win an NBA title. And we're going back to the 1980s. And it's interesting because we got a couple of guys here who played in the 1980s in the NBA, being Kevin McHale and Kenny the Jet Smith. We also have, you know, guys who were in college, who were in high school, you were watching the NBA. You had guys that you were saying, oh, that's the guy I want to model my game after, and that kind of thing. Kevin, is there one best team that comes to mind that did not win it in the 80s that you thought could win it?
Yeah, it started in the 70s, but it went to the early 80s. All the Dr. J teams that started off in 77 against Portland losing and getting all the way to the Moses Malone team. Now, the Moses Malone, the famous full. You got to take the mouthpiece out to do it right then. full. And then put the mouthpiece back in.
Very convincing. I thought Mo was sitting right there. Absolutely amazing.
But that all those teams, I thought that they ended up losing. The Celtics, our Celtics team, in 81, we beat them in the conference finals. They lost the NBA finals in 1980 to when Magic has a phenomenal seventh game. They get there again in 82 and lose in the finals again. They were a great team, and they just couldn't get over the hump. Now, Moses came, and you know that brought him over. But that team starting in 77 with Dr. J coming in after the merger from the ABA and the NBA, getting to the finals his first year in the NBA, everybody's like, oh, man, Dr. J, this thing's just going to go. And they never got over the hump, really, and they won the title in 83 when Dr. J really wasn't their best player anymore.
I'm not really an 80s guy. I'm really a 90s guy.
Yeah, but Kenny,
what year was your draft, Kenny?
Did you or did you not play in the decade of the 80s?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you very much.
I did.
End of
Actually,
conversation.
3 years.
I know.
But the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
The Milwaukee Bucks teams, you know, Sidney Moncrief, you know, was probably, you know, I'm trying to think of who would he be in this era.
I was going to say, I hate to interrupt you right there, but if you can lend that kind of a perspective for the younger fans out there, or the guys who have been watching the game say, boy, I hear about Jack Sikma. I hear about Sidney Moncrief. Who was Jack Sikma today? Who was Sidney Moncrief today?
Sidney Moncrief was a better version of DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
But very similar.
Would post up more.
Would post up more.
And more rugged. Just
a little bit more rugged.
More
but
rugged.
I say more like DeMar DeRozan with a little bit more skill.
Yeah. Who would be Marcus Johnson? Marcus, remember the small forward?
Oh,
Marcus Johnson.
First of all, Marcus Johnson could play basketball. Right? When UCLA, he could really play. They had Bob Lanier as a center to start that thing.
Exactly.
Let me tell you something. If Dauber didn't like you, he just strangled you. It was a tough guy to play against. Getting strangled really takes away a lot of your game. It affects you. See what I'm telling you, man.
Change your perspective.
I think it will change it. Kevin McHale, other than playing against the Celtics, what was the reason you think the Bucks couldn't get over the hump? What were they missing?
Honestly, they had us or Philadelphia. We were just a little bit better than they were. But they were such a good team because you talk about Marcus Johnson. Not many people talk about him in the NBA.
All the time.
And I'm telling you right now, they had a team full of guys. They played so well together. Don Nelson was kind of he inverted it. One of the first guys to invert the offense. Post up Sidney Moncrief and pull everybody out. And they played so well together, but when you looked at them, you were always fearful of that team because we played against them all the time.
Paul Pressey. I'm biased because I grew up watching Sidney in Arkansas. He went to Arkansas.
That's right.
He would spend time in Little Rock. My older brother and he would work out together. I would watch those guys. So when he got to Milwaukee and playing against you guys, I always wanted the Bucks to win. I always thought that was the next best team.
When you say like they were the 80s Bucks were the 90s Blazers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were
maybe a little less talent, but more together.
Well,
they were
had
so
more,
tight.
But they might have had more. Because I think the thing that, listen, at the end of the day, your team and the Sixers, when you guys played them, the best player was always on one of your teams.
Yeah, that's that.
That ultimately, to me,
or they were the 2000 version of any team playing against LeBron.
Couldn't get over the hump, but they were good.
Right.
They were really good.
You knew it was going to be a tough 6-7 game series.
Let me tell you something. It was going to be a dogfight because they had no quit in them. They were tough as nails, and they played together, and they really believed they could beat you. Like a lot of teams you went out there, especially when we were rolling, you kind of looked at them, and they all did this rah-rah, and they'd be like, yeah, not really. Like, we can't beat you guys. But we're going to act like we can, you know. But they had that, you know, like that rah-rah, we're going to kick your tail, and they came out there, and they were battles. That was really another really good team.
How about those Twin Towers? Sampson and Olajuwon together.
How long did they play together?
Houston. Only like 3 seasons.
Three seasons, yeah.
Ralph Sampson, he, to me, probably the most unique player that ever played in the NBA for his size. 7'4", handle the basketball.
Lead the break.
He could shoot the mid-range jump shot, and he could rebound and defend. And, obviously, Kevin played against him in the finals. But to me, I don't even know if there's a guy like him. Like, he was a dominant guy where if the knees don't go, he might be sitting on top of Mount Rushmore.
When I played, I was more fearful of Akeem, even as a young player, than I was of Ralph, who's a little bit older. Olajuwon had that it factor, and you could tell it even earlier. You go up for a normal shot, and you can shoot it over Akeem, or shoot it over Ralph. All of a sudden, Olajuwon to throw that in the third row, and you go like, dang, he got a little extra jump when he wants to get up there. And honestly, you could hit Ralph, and Ralph would back up. You hit Akeem, he'd hit you back. You'd be like, dang, that guy's strong too.
Right.
The thing that held them back is they look at their guards, and they had a lot of issues down there.
Yeah.
With that team off the court.
Yeah.
With
That
a lot
was,
of
the, 80s, that was the 80s freelance paraphernalia era.
Yeah,
freelance.
It was the
freelance
paraphernalia.
Pharmacist.
Yeah. They had a lot of guys that were
Jackie Moon in them.
Hey, Kev.
Well, I remember that because I experimented with ibuprofen. Hey, back when you were in college at Georgia Tech, they had a pretty good team going on.
They sure did.
Here in Atlanta.
I was sure did.
I mean, you think about those Atlanta teams with Dominique and Spud and Doc Rivers and Randy Whip.
Trey Rollins.
Kevin Willis.
Kevin Willis, yeah.
Jump
Hook, Cliff Robinson.
Cliff Levingston.
The original big dog.
Antoine Carr.
That was the original big dog.
Antoine.
The original big dog.
Sleep on Antoine.
But that was a pretty good bunch to not win it all. And they had that one. Remember the Dominique, Larry Bird, big shooter?
Game 7.
And,
first of all, it was Game 6 here in Atlanta when they were trying to say, hey, let's close this thing out. Let's not go back. But guys like John Battle, to come off the bench. Dominique's not playing well. Doc would go to John Battle and say, look, John, I need you to heat up. Yeah. So when he would come in
mid-range shooting.
Mid-range.
Cool. He could really shoot it, boy.
But like we talked about earlier, all these teams, back then, guys really understood their roles. They bought into their roles and said, now it's my turn. But with that team, they were so fun to watch because Dominique was the headliner, but everyone else around him. When you talk about Spud Webb, they would come over and play with us across the street at Georgia Tech, you say, this little joker can flat out go. First small guy getting the dunk contest, win the dunk contest, all that hype around them. The question would be, when it got crunch time, the other team would outsmart them. That was their downfall.
Kevin and Kenny, I had to ask the question. You didn't play much in the 80s, but was the team seem deeper back then?
Yeah. I mean, there was less teams. There was less teams, so it just seemed like you go 9 or 10 deep. But we also say about the Hawks, we used to say they used to miss on purpose. Like, they missed because they had so many great offensive rebounders. I promise you, this is the first time in my life where I used to, the saying, watch your head.
Watch your head.
Because they miss a shot and everybody over the rim.
Well,
but this much over the rim, like three guys, Antoine Carr, Dominique, and Kevin Willis.
So we're playing, it's Nick's a rookie. He's coming in. The ball goes up. I push C-Web. You know how you clear space? You get that rebound every day. You're not even worried about it because I push it and I go up to get it. And all of a sudden, man, there's just a force all over my shoulder. He grabs it. He dunks it. Those short shorts? They were right here. I tell you right now. I mean, he threw that thing down, and I was like, oh, my. And Larry has the classic line. Larry goes, Larry never got too excited. He goes, shoot, I better box that guy out, huh, Kev? I said, yeah, I suggest you put a body on him. That was one of the craziest things ever. I'd never seen a guy that high in my life. He just threw it down.
Short shorts right here, huh, Kev?
Right here, baby. That was not, I still have nightmares about that, Smitty.
Obviously. GA, those Dallas teams?
The Mavericks, the Cavs.
Yeah, the Brad Doherty, Mark Price.
Yeah,
those great.
I never thought they'd win, though.
No,
and they got knocked out in the
80s. Win it.
80s.
No, but
Nine
they were
straight
really good
playoffs,
team.
knocked out in the first round 7 times.
Okay, I never thought they'd win. I thought they were good, but I never thought they'd win.
But
the Mavericks teams, though, those teams are really good.
Yeah.
That was one of the best backcourts, Rondo Blackman and Mark Aguirre. That was a difficult backcourt to deal with.
Well, really,
Sixth man of the year.
Derek Harper.
Derek Harper.
And then Sam
And Aguirre was scoring up front, believe me.
Roy Tarpley.
There were some guys that you had a hard time boxing out,
Yeah.
and there were some guys you couldn't box out. He was in the couldn't ranks.
Yeah.
I mean, he would work. That guy was an offensive rebounding fool. I mean, he would go to the offensive glass, and he worked. He was a great rebounder.
He was Robin before Robin.
He was the first basketball player with butt implants, straight up.
Who was that? Mark?
Butt implants.
I don't know anything about that. That just scares me.
I believe that in the West.
Were they doing that back
In
then?
other words, Rick
West of
Mahorn
Mavericks.
and Roy Tarpley got the biggest butts.
They
They
got
could
some-
box you out with their hands inside. They just, you stand behind them, they just holding you back with their butt.
Mavs and Bucks.
What we got?
Mavs or Bucks?
We talk about the
I'll
best.
go with the Mavs.
I'll go with the Mavs.
I'll go with the Mavs.
Now I go with the Bucks because I
I'll go
played
with
against
the
those
Bucks.
teams.
I'll
And
go
I tell you
with
what,
the Bucks.
I'll
I'll
go
go
with
with
the
the
Bucks.
Of those groups, I felt Mark Aguirre was the best offensive player
Yeah, he could
of
score
those
the ball,
two
yeah.
teams. And back then, you forget how good Mark Aguirre was. Mark
Yeah, but
Aguirre.
you forget a guy like Dale Ellis was on that team and couldn't get off the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
no,
that
but
was
I'm just.
before he got
oh
traded.
my
That's before he
goodness,
got
that
traded,
team
yeah.
was.
We got traded to Seattle.
That team was loaded.
We'll move from the 80s to the 90s when we come back. I don't know what was said in the last minute 42 of that segment. You lost me after.
But in front. You don't need no arms, just a butt.
I know, but I wasn't aware of the implants. There's a lot I'm not aware.